Hello everyone. So this weekend is Mother's Day, and based on the poll that I posted to see which brunch recipes you guys would like to learn, crumb cake came in first place, but it only won by 1 point because the blueberry lemon crescent ring was a close second. So I am going to do both of those recipes. So if you would like to try to make them for your mothers this weekend, you'll be all set. So I am gonna be going back and forth between the dining room and the kitchen because the dining room table gives me a lot more room because there are a lot of ingredients this week. So we're gonna get started with the crumb cake first. The crumb cake has two parts. There's the cake part and the crumb part. Okay, so let's get started. So while you're getting your ingredients ready, the dry ingredients you're going to need are flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, cinnamon, and salt. Then you will also need sour cream, butter, vanilla, and eggs. I am going to break down which of these ingredients you will need for each part of your recipe. So to start with the cake, you will need 3/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup or 1 stick of butter, 2 eggs, 1 cup or 8 ounces of sour cream. The store didn't have the 8-ounce container, but if you buy the 8-ounce container, you can just use the whole container. 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon baking powder, and 1 teaspoon baking soda, and 1/8 teaspoon salt. For the second half of the recipe, the crumbs that will go on top, is 3 sticks of butter, 1 cup of sugar, 3 cups of flour, 3 tablespoons of cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So the first thing I did was put my hair up because you do not want hair in your food, and I have a lot of it. Second thing I did was wash my hands, and then the third thing I did was I separated my wet and dry ingredients because they didn't all fit on the same counter. So right in front of me, I have my wet ingredients plus sugar, which are going to be blended in a bowl together with the butter. Okay, so we're gonna start with 1 stick or 1/2 cup of butter. And 3/4 cup of sugar, which is already pre-measured. And I will blend. Once the butter and sugar is light and fluffy, you are going to slowly start adding the rest of your ingredients. So I'm going to start with 2 eggs. And one at a time. Then we have 1 cup or 8 ounces of sour cream. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I am going to blend that all up and then bring it into where I have my dry ingredients laid out. So I have 2 bowls in front of me. I have my sugar and butter mixture, which I'm going to set aside while I mix my dry ingredients. So my dry ingredients are flour, which is pre-measured, but that is 2 cups of flour. Then it's 1 teaspoon each baking soda and 1 teaspoon baking powder. Probably would have been easier to pre-measure these two, but and 1/8 teaspoon salt. So there is no 1/8 teaspoon, but there is 1/4. 1/8 teaspoon is really just like a pinch, but try to fill up half the 1/4. To kind of get an idea, it's about 1/8. So you can just mix those ingredients quickly. But then you're going to add them to your butter and sugar mixture. And you're just gonna mix that up. So your batter will be thick. Just make sure that everything is combined. I am then going to take a 13 by 9 by 2 inch pan. So 13 long, 9 wide, 2 inches high. I'm gonna spray that. Okay, and then I'm going to pour my batter into this. So you're gonna smooth your batter out so that it evenly spreads on the bottom of the pan. And you're gonna bake this in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Now, a tip is that depending on your oven, because every oven, even though it's 350 degrees, can be a little different, you wanna make sure the top is light brown. So check it at 20 minutes. If it's not a nice light brown, leave it in until it is, because if it's not baked enough and you don't have that brown on top, the weight of the crumbs will cause the cake, cause the cake to cave in the middle a little bit. So I'm gonna finish this up and put it in my oven for 350, and then I'm going to start my crumbs. Okay, so while your cake is in the oven, you can make the crumbs that are gonna go on top. So the first thing you do is you are going to combine all of your dry ingredients, and then we're gonna put that aside. So you have 3 cups of flour. I pre-measured that because that was a lot. So it's 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of sugar, and 3 tablespoons of cinnamon. As I think I said in a previous video, I like a lot of cinnamon. So I might do 3 heaping tablespoons. If you don't like a lot of cinnamon, you know, judge that based on your preference. Get to the end of the bottle there. Okay, so I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to put it aside so I can combine my butter and vanilla. Okay, so then I'm going to combine 3 sticks of softened butter. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. and you will beat that with a mixer until creamy and smooth. For the last step with the crumbs, you want to make sure your hands are clean and that you have washed them. You are going to slowly add the dry ingredients, so your sugar, flour, and cinnamon, to your butter and vanilla mixture. Now, as you add, you can stir it in to make sure it goes in evenly, but it is going to get thick. So once you kind of have it mixed together, you really need to combine it. And how you're going to do that is by using those clean hands of yours. Okay. So you really just want to combine and really mush together the flour and sugar mixture with the butter until you get crumbs. The crumbs definitely get soft with the heat of your hands, especially with the butter. So if you have time left on your oven while you're waiting for your cake to come out, I do recommend keeping these in the fridge for a few minutes until you are ready to use them. Okay, and just to give you an idea, this is what your crumbs should look like when you're done. So I just took my cake out of the oven after 25 minutes. You can see that nice light brown on top. I also took my crumbs out of the refrigerator, and now it's time to put them together. All right, so I was trying to find an angle where you'd be able to see everything, but pretty much you are going to take handfuls of the crumbs and just sprinkle them atop your cake. I know my family, this is a big favorite of ours. I make it every Christmas morning for breakfast. We always do a Mother's Day brunch. I always make this, and since we can't go to bakeries and stuff this year, I'm also making a bunch of other treats, which is why I posted that poll. But my family loves like a few big chunks of crumbs, so I always make sure that there are a few big chunks spread out so that everyone gets a big crumb. So this will go back in the oven for another 20 minutes. Then you will let it cool, sprinkle some confectioner's sugar on top, and enjoy. While my crumb cake is cooling, I'm going to get started on the blueberry lemon crescent ring. So to make the actual crescent ring, you're going to need Pillsbury crescent rolls, cream cheese, 1/4 cup of sugar, fresh or frozen blueberries, and a lemon. And then you will need milk and 1/2 cup of confectioner's sugar to make a glaze to go on it at the end. Okay, so in addition to the ingredients for the blueberry lemon ring, I want to go over a few other items you're going to need. This is a fairly simple recipe. It's going to take only like 5-10 minutes to put together and then only 15 minutes to bake. But you will need a cutting board and you will need a zester. Okay, then I also have a mat down here. You don't have to have a mat, but you will need a clean space to roll out the crescent rolls. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to make the filling that's going to go inside the ring. And the first thing we need for that is our lemon. So if you roll the lemon before you cut it, it kind of loosens up all the juices. Cut my lemon. And I need fresh lemon juice is the first part of this. So I'm going to squeeze it. And if you squeeze it with upside down kind of, it will keep, all the juices will slide down the side, but it will keep all the seeds and stuff from going in. So that's my juice for my lemon. The second thing I need is I need lemon zest. So I have a bowl that I'm just gonna put my zester over, and I'm gonna zest the rind of the lemon. I only need a teaspoon of this, and you don't want to get down to the white, so you wanna keep rotating your lemon and making sure you're only getting the yellow part of the rind or the peel. And then once you think you have about a teaspoon in there, you're all set. So I am now ready to put together my filling. So I'm going to start with 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of that lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of that lemon zest, and then 4 ounces of cream cheese. So if I take an 8-ounce package of cream cheese, on the side, they do have it labeled if you need specific ounces. So 4 ounces though, I just cut this in half. Pop that in there. Okay. Can save that for a bagel or a cream cheese and jelly sandwich. And I'm gonna take my mixer, mix this all up, and then I'm going to bring it inside where I have my Pillsbury crescent rolls laid out on that baking mat. So I laid out my Pillsbury crescent dough. I want to make sure you can see this. And I did rinse off my cutting board. So the first thing is you're not going to be cutting the crescent dough into the individual strips. You're going to be leaving it as one big sheet. So you want to make sure you go across the seams and just kind of pinch them together so it looks like just one full sheet of dough. Okay. Then I'm going to take my cream cheese and lemon mixture, and I'm going to spread that on my dough. We will be rolling this up, so you don't want to go right to the edge, but you want to evenly spread this. Now I am going to sprinkle my blueberries evenly across. So it says half a cup of blueberries, fresh or frozen. I do have fresh, and they are delicious and they're nice and juicy and plump. I do have a heaping half cup. Whenever I do any sort of dessert or pastry like this, I always overfill it. Makes it messier, but it tastes delicious. So I'm just going to evenly spread these out. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to roll this up. So along my long edge, I'm just gonna slowly pull it off and roll it up. Okay. If you didn't go right to the edge, you should have a little left here, and that's going to help seal it. So you can kind of pull that edge up now. Okay. Okay, so now I want to get my cutting board back. And I'm gonna put this onto my cutting board. And I'm going to cut it. It's a little difficult. I'm gonna cut it in half first to make it easier to cut. But I'm gonna cut this into rings. Okay, so the directions say about 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, the cream cheese came out at the end of that one. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now I need to take these and I'm going to rearrange them on a cookie sheet so we can stick them in the oven. So for the oven, you can leave it on 350 after you finish your crumb cake. If you didn't make the crumb cake first, you're just gonna preheat your oven to 350. I still have mine on. And I greased a baking sheet and we're going to arrange this in a circle, kind of trying to overlap some of these rings a little bit. Okay, so I sprayed my pan with Pam and I'm gonna take all of these rings that we cut. I'm gonna overlap them and try to make a circle or like a wreath. This was not the easiest recipe to put together. The bottom here kind of got a little gooey, but it doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to while I was putting it together. So I'm going to put this in the oven at 350 for 15 minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to make our glaze. The glaze recipe is a very simple and common glaze recipe. This is the glaze that you will find in recipes for cookies, cakes, donuts, and it's just a basic glaze recipe that is used for everything. So for this one, we're using half a cup of confectioner's sugar. The only thing that might change is the amount of sugar you use based on how big an area you need to cover. And then you're gonna slowly add 1 tablespoon of milk at a time until you have reached a smooth, creamy glaze. So 1 tablespoon. So after mixing in 1 tablespoon, most of our sugar is combined, but it's a very thick, almost like gluey texture. So we're gonna add our 2nd tablespoon of milk. And you will usually need at least 2 tablespoons. So I'll mix my 2nd tablespoon in. I think 2 tablespoons is gonna do this. I have a nice consistency that I can just drizzle this on top of my cake when it comes out of the oven. And when I drizzle that, I'm also going to powder my crumb cake and we'll be all set for brunch. The crescent ring is out of the oven. It did get a little gooey, but it looks pretty good. So I am going to glaze this. So I'm pretty much just gonna take my bowl of glaze and drizzle it on top. Since I'm not serving this yet, I am going to let it cool and then I will transfer it onto a nice dish. So any of the glaze and the blueberry that's leaking out won't be there when I present this for Mother's Day brunch. And our final step is to put some powdered sugar on our crumb cake. I just want to wish all of your moms a happy Mother's Day. And if you are not able to make these this weekend, I hope you are able to try some of these recipes out in the future. But I did just want to show you that everything is ready for brunch. And it all looks delicious.